I am Coach Sess, motivated and determined, and you are listening to Words with a Mad Coach. Good morning, Mad World. It's me, Coach Sess. Hey, I'm here to give you my impressions, some thoughts about what is impacting local MMA and what is actually hurting the game right now. Why do I feel like it's hurting? It's because there are some definite signs that you see, things like shows being canceled, fights like the main events being restructured or change of opponent for the main event at the last minute. A lot of fighters on the card are being either scratched because they're not making the medicals, or the opponents are being changed, or the commission won't approve the matchup. A lot of these things that are saying, hey, we're not going to be able to do this fight. In other words, we're not going to be able to give you this product. Those are clear-cut signs to me that something's wrong. And I'm going to outline some of the talking points that I've outlined in my notes here that I think might shed some light on why we're having this issue. And it starts with the fighter. I think a lot of fighters are confused and misguided in terms of how this business works. I think they watch too much UFC and Bellator, and they see shows like The Ultimate Fighter, and they think that that's the way combat sports is portrayed and managed across the board. Fighters have a horrible sense of what their worth is. And so they, you have guys with records like 2-10 who want to be treated like superstars. And why that's a problem is because you've actually seen fighters sign up for one event, and then let's say he's at a weight class that they desperately need, and usually those are the smaller weight classes or the super big weight classes. And so there's not that many fighters in those weight classes. And this guy signs up, but for whatever reason, because he doesn't like the way negotiations are going, or he doesn't like the way he's being talked to, he changes venues at the last minute. And that's where local MMA sometimes is a little bit different than what you may think. Fighters don't necessarily have to have a contract at the amateur level. Now, some shows do it to lock the fighters in, to make them obligated, but a lot of them have stopped doing it. But I think that because fighters don't get what they want, they keep it pushing, they move on, they feel somewhat entitled, not only entitled with the promotions, but they feel entitled with gyms where they are probably going to get the training. They feel as if they don't have to pay. And they fail to understand that most fighters in any gym, pro or amateur, really don't help the gym make money. Now, you can use them as some type of symbol, icon, or, a figure to help recruit. But in the actual recruitment process itself, fighters don't do anything. They don't do any marketing. They don't do any branding for the gym. They don't do promos, telling everybody, oh, come here, because the fighters are always in a flux of filling out a gym to make sure that's where they belong. So, because they feel like their talent is the reason why people are there. And that can be true to some degree if the fighter's good. But going back to what I said earlier about this false sense of achievement, false view of themselves, a 2-10 fighter can feel like he's better than anybody at the gym. And 9 times out of 10, that's because no one else fights at the gym, or that the instructor might be an expert in jiu-jitsu, but he's never fought MMA. So the fighter feels as if he holds some type of position. Pay structure. Fighters don't understand pay structure. On the pro side, I can defend it a little bit because promotions change up their pay structure. Some pay you direct, say, hey, I'll give you a flat fee. You make this, win, lose, or draw. Some say, okay, you get show money, win money. Some say you get performance money. Some say you have to sell X amount of tickets. There are always varying provisions, So that can be a little confusing for pros. As far as the amateurs, the pay structure is understanding how to give back to those who train you, because they're not going to make money off of you. If you're not doing promos, you're not branding, you don't teach at the gym, you're not signing people out, you're not recruiting. So how do you pay them back? And I'm not going to talk about that today, but there are ways that fighters can pay back, and unfortunately a lot of them just don't do it. A lot of them go out and they get a t-shirt and they solicit their skills to a promoter to get on a show, mainly to benefit themselves, to sell that t-shirt, to sell that paraphernalia, to sell that hat, or whatever it is that they're going to sell. And they're not helping the gym. None of those proceeds are going back into the gym. But yet they don't want to pay the gym for the training. You see what I'm saying? Now, if there's a relationship that he has with the gym where, he pays X, Y, and Z, and the fighter recruits any for the shirts, the t-shirts, paraphernalia that he sells, that's great. That's fantastic. But I know for certain that it's just not that way. So fighters feel somewhat entitled that they should train for free. And another thing where fighters are confused on is they confuse classroom time with camp time. Training for a fight is not the same as going to class and learning a new technique every day, or just rolling with random training partners. That a good camp has a structure to it because you're trying to achieve a very specific goal. MMA fights, unlike a tournament, MMA fights, a lot of times who your opponents are. And so a lot of that information is floating around on the internet, and it's just a matter of having somebody look at that data, structure that data, interpret that data, and then come up with a format for you to train so that you can potentially, win the fight, or at least put the odds in your court. Most fighters think that, if I just go to class every day and I train with the strongest guy, the fastest guy, or the most technical guy, or whatever, that a lot of that's going to rub off. And through osmosis over time, a lot of time, that may be true. But in the short term, there is a way to do it so that you get the immediate results. Unfortunately, most gyms aren't set up to do it that way. Again, if they're in the business of trying to make a profit, they don't always have the time to put all their investment and interest into one particular fighter. I can talk about that at another time, but just going back over my notes again, fighters need to learn a little bit more about how the business works in terms of negotiation. Negotiate for what you want. Don't worry about what the next guy's getting. They need to understand the difference between training and camping, understand the pay structure in terms of what they either owe the gym or the coach, or figure out what they can give back in trade. The sense of entitlement needs to go away. You can make yourself into a star, but likes and views on your Facebook or your social media does not guarantee the gym that you're going to bring people in, does not guarantee the promoter that you're going to put butts in the seat. There is a way to measure that. There is a way to get those people inside the facility, but you just showing up saying, hey, I'm going to be a champion one day, that's not going to do it. So lose the sense of entitlement and this view of yourself. Be realistic in terms of, how good you think you are. If you think you're as good as Anderson Silva, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to be in the same situation as Anderson Silva. So think about it like that. There are very few guys out there that are as good as the high-level competition, and the only thing lacking is the opportunity to prove it. I am Coach Sess, and you've had Words with the Mad Coach.